We've got several new activities that we'll discuss here in a little while that are newer to the RTR in the last few years to make this just a fun place to come and spend the next 5 days with us. So again, my name's JP Smith. I'll be around. If you got any questions, come find me or one of the amazing leads or volunteers that work to put this on. But we wouldn't be here if it weren't for these two people sitting to my right. We have the founder of the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, Bob Wells himself, and Sue Ann Carlson, the executive director of the Homes on Wheels Alliance. And it grew to be more than what we do out here this week. So the Homes on Wheels Alliance is now responsible for putting on the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous. And although this is the most visible thing we do during during the year, the Homes on Wheels Alliance does lots of things throughout the rest of the year, and Sue Ann will touch on that. But know that the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous may end on Friday, but the mission of Howa and Bob's original vision for the RTR continues for the rest of the year. And we want you all to be a part of that and help us out. Make a donation to help fund the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, to help fund the other programs that we do, but also just get involved. And again, Sue Ann will talk some about that. So without further ado, I give you Bob Wells and Sue Ann Carlson.
Each and every one of you are here. I just appreciate that you're here and then you came. Boy, this one's really touchy. You hope for and more. I believe that's been the general situation as we've done this over the years, that people have gotten all they hoped for and more. Of course, we're no longer gathering in camping together, and that was an awful lot of what we did, but we're working to make that happen again. We just aren't sure how it can. One of the goals I've always had for the RTR, that it'd be free. There's never been a charge. No one's ever paid a penny to come to the RTR, and that's the intention going into the future. However, that means we can't camp together because the BLM made it nearly impossible for us to camp on the land, and renting is very expensive, and we'd have to pass along the expense. So, but I think this is wonderful. You can still make friends. I hope you found each other and are camping close. That's so important. That's such an integral part of what we're doing here. Let me give you a brief history of, well, a kind of brief, as brief as I can be, history of the RTR. I hit the road, well, I'll go all the way back. In 1995, I started living in my van. I lived in it until 2001. And then I moved into a house and hated every second of living in that house. In 2008, I finally broke free of that house and went on the road again. And I've been living in some kind of vehicle, usually vans, now an ambulance, since. Well, in 2005, I thought there were so many people that needed to hear what I had found. And you know, I was working, I retired from work in 2006, and I was a clerk in a grocery store. No special background to me at all. I'd done it all my life, so I retired with a pension. I was a union clerk. And I knew the guys that I worked with, the guys and gals, it was probably half and half, none of them loved their lives. They just went to work because they had to make money and they had to feed their family. And so they gladly did those things because those are such honorable things. But it wasn't a life they would have chosen if they'd had any other choice, I think. I think that's true for most of us. It's good and honorable to go to work, pay taxes, feed your family. And so we do it. We're glad to do it. But I think there's more to life than that. I hope there's more to life than that. And so I wanted to get the word out that you could live in your van. I loved living in my van, and so I wanted people to hear about it. I joined a group called Yahoo Groups. Now this was way back in early 2000s, and the internet was in its infancy, and so that was the big methods of communications. Yahoo was the giant then, before Google, before anyone else. AOL.com and Yahoo, those were the two giants. And so they offered, anybody could start a website, and they had free software that you could use, and it was drag and drop, essentially. And so I started a website called Cheap RV Living, and I started that in 2005. Well, when I went on the road down in the States, I would live in Alaska all my life. When I went on the road in the States in 2008, the first thing I did was went to a Yahoo group gathering. they had started doing little gatherings, but just like we're doing here, except on a tiny scale. My first one was in Ohio in 2007, and we're about a dozen of us. And in 2008, when I hit the road, left the house for the last time, thank God, and hope to never go back, I went from there directly to another Yahoo group gathering. So I really believe in gatherings, that tend to be individualistic people, that we want to be alone a lot. I know well, let's do a raise of hand. How many of you would call yourself an introvert? A lot, a whole lot. How many would call yourself an extrovert? Less. Yeah, the introverts win in the van community, it seems to me. I was an introvert, I am an introvert. This is something I've had to grow into over the decades now. And so in 2005, I started the website. 2008, I went to this, we had that gathering in Ohio. And in 2010, I thought, well, we can have a gathering. And so just a bunch of friends and I gathered in Pahrump, Nevada. I became a Pahrump, Nevada resident. And so there were 13 of us that gathered. And Sue Ann, of course, was there. And someone else that's very important to this story, I'll introduce her in just a second. And so it was great. Wasn't it great?
It was the person that V's going to introduce in a minute. Her and I were just reminiscing. It was life-changing. It was more than great. It was set the course for the rest of my life.
It honestly, it was. And there were just 13 of us. We became friends. Most of us are tight friends to this day. So it occurred to me then, I had the website in 2008 when the economy went south. We went into the Great Recession. The website exploded. So in 2008, 2009, you lost your job, you had nowhere to live. You went to the website, to the internet, and said, how do I live on no money budget? How do I live on a very low budget? And my website, that's what it did. And so it exploded. I had a lot of hits and contacts and a lot of emails from people who were desperate. I lost my job. I moved in with my sister or my brother, my in-laws. They've lost their job. They're losing their house. We're all going to be homeless. It was a dark, dark time, as I'm sure many of you remember all too well. So I knew that we needed to do more, and the website exploded. And I knew that if I could make a gathering out of this, the website had enough hits and followers that if I put an announcement on there, we're gathering together, come and join us. That was the first thought of the RTR. Talk to everyone in there. Can we do this, do you think? Could I do this? And we all thought, yeah, this can't be any big deal. We just all go gather. So I put out the word on my website, Cheap RV Living, and headed towards Quartzsite, because Quartzsite was oriented, as you well know now, oriented towards RVers and made it really simple. So that was the first one in 2011. We had 45 people. I drove down, I was in Pahrump, I drove down to Quartzsite. I had no idea what I was going to do. Absolutely no idea. No idea where to do it, to how to do it, nothing. It was a shot in the dark. But I'd been to this other gathering in Ohio and another one in Arizona, so I had a little bit of we're all just going to get together. So I did that, and I got here in early of 2010, in January of 2010, and I needed to pick a location, and so I ran into a friend. Might as well just stay standing. Yeah, sure, to help me, because I'm not good at new things. I know that's hard to believe, but I don't do new things unless I have a group of people around me to help me, and Sherry was the one that was here then. So I went up to, she suggested Dome Rock, and we started in Dome Rock. I've taken classes ever since. And this is Sherry. Sherry was there, and it was actually Sherry and I at the first RTR that drove around and said, let's do it here. So I'm so glad to see you here.
I got van, and I bought a couple of desks at a thrift store, bungee corded them to the wall. When I got down here, Bob attached them to the floor of my van, and they're still in there.
We did a good job.
We did a good job.
2011, and in 2008, when did Howa start? You move the RTRs, both the women's RTR, which this is our 5th annual this year, and to Howa, because it was just getting really large to manage. So Howa adopted the RTRs, and we adopted it in 2019, in the middle of 2019, and 2020 was our first one. It also happened to be when we found out that we wouldn't be able to afford the cost of it if we continued to have it on BLM land. So in 2020, we moved the camping separate from the event, and had it at the fairground in La Paz on the way to Parker. And then COVID hit, so the next year we had an online RTR and WRTR, and then we moved here to Quartzsite. And I love the grass, you guys. Who has grass in the desert, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the history of the RTRs is, as JP has said, it takes a tribe to make it happen. And we have a wonderful one.
We had, when I went on YouTube, I wasn't aware of the reach that YouTube had. The first year I was on YouTube, we had about 5,000 people. The second year, we had 10,000 people camp out together at Skadden Wash. And we started working with the BLM to get our permits. As we grew larger, you got to get a permit, you have to go through them. And I believe what happened is they saw 10,000 people doubled in 1 year. The next year, had we been able to put it on again here, it might have been 20,000. Certainly would have been 15 to 20,000. And so they, and then they're looking at another Burning Man event eventually. And so, having had that experience with Burning Man, saying that, we do burning vans. And that will come up, and you'll hear more about that from someone else. And so they made the requirements so high. We had Burning Man restrictions on us, and we weren't charging anything. So it just became impossible to do it on the land. So no, I guess that's all I wanted to say about the RTR. And so I'll give you a little tiny brief background. I wanted to start a nonprofit all along, right from the beginning. Because the roots of this thing is in 2008 and the Great Recession. And so my heart has always been, and I've just been an average worker. I'm a worker bee, a clerk in a grocery store. My wife didn't work, and so we were always check to check. We could never put together any real savings. So that's my life. And I know there are so many others whose that is their life. And then if something happens and you don't get that check, if you don't get that check for a few weeks, if you don't get that check for a few months, it's disaster, fear of that disaster. And if you own a van and you can live in it, you will never be homeless. That is really the core thing I want to tell everyone. You don't ever have to be homeless. They go accomplishment. And so Sue Ann has accomplished all of this. Sue Ann and Phyllis. And Phyllis is here.
Into. In 2019, an anonymous donor contacted us and had a heart to serve nomads in need, not unlike what you have, Bob, and offered $10,000 to start an emergency fund for nomads. In between 2019 and now, Howa has granted more than $80,000 to people with broken down vehicles, need for cash, just anything. You depleted your emergency fund because something unexpected happened, and then something else unexpected happened, and what do you do now? And so that's the kind of service the emergency fund does for nomads. And then the other thing that Howa adopted from cheap RV living was the caravans. These are kind of a mini gathering to do much of the intent of the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, to create community. So these caravans are people getting together, camping together, sitting around the campfire, sharing stories, sharing tips and tricks, and that program continues. It's evolving, again, because of our relationship with the Bureau of Land Management, but it continues and people are still making connections. Like the community at a campfire that didn't want to give it up. So the virtual caravans continue, so that caravan program grew during the pandemic in a really unexpected, wonderful way. The other thing that HOWA does is helps people improve their vehicle to be functional homes on wheels. So many people move into their vehicles, they don't know that they need warm clothes during the winter, or they don't know that they need ventilation, or they don't have a way to keep their devices charged. So we call that our Bring Your Own Vehicle program. People bring their vehicles to us to make them better homes on wheels, and then we provide them with items to make that happen. So on February 1st, we are granting 200-watt solar power systems with a 100 amp hour battery. And these items will be provided to the recipients, and it is life-changing, guys, to be able to have power, to run your CPAP, to keep your insulin cold, to charge your devices so you can earn some money. So that's another program that we have. And then you're going to hear pretty soon about our bulletin board, where people can put what they want or need. Like they need installation. Okay. They need installation of a solar power system, for example. They can post it on the bulletin board here, and people that have those skills can go to the bulletin board, contact them, and then offer those skills. It's all about being community and supporting each other. And then another part of the bulletin board is if you have something to offer. You have, HOWA, and that's an online bulletin board. So all year you'll have access to that. So if you go to HOWA.org, you'll see in the upper left-hand corner a link to that. Again, it's just brand new, so we would love to have you create your account and your profile, and then make some postings, take a look and see what's there. 5 Facebook groups. In total, over 100,000 members. It again is another way to have community, to support each other, a place to ask questions, a place to get answers. There's a Facebook group for the RTR, there was a Facebook group for the WRTR. Our biggest group has over 70,000 members in it. The booth that says cold weather gear, where people are standing around. We had 2 donors. An anonymous donor give us $7,000, and then Columbia Jackets gave us $8,000 worth of coats. Pretty amazing.